Dornbecker with my daughter, and I might have to like mute myself and talk to a doctor. Sometimes the doctors come in and out. So if that happens, feel free to like move on without me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll
good luck
keep
on all
it
that.
flowing, Leslie.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of, I have no control over what happens. So when the staff here has been in many a Zoom meetings for my work so far. Oh, okay. So it is 4:02 and I'm going to call this month's meeting of the library board to order. Patrick, could you share the screen with the agenda on it, please?
I am looking for it. Yes, I can. Give me 2 seconds.
Yay.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah,
All right, great.
funny.
Great.
I've never
So today, is everyone here?
You're missing Roxy, who's absent. Sierra and Diana are not here either.
So I would call for approval of the minutes of last meeting. Before we call for that approval though, does anybody have anything that they want to add to those minutes? Okay, so if I could get a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of October 26th meeting.
I'll second.
All right. Then all in agreement, say yay.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, so they're approved. And our first order of board business is we are going to do the first training of the trustee short takes. So I think Patrick's going to facilitate that.
Yeah, so I should be on there. Did my screen change or are you still seeing the minutes?
Nope.
Nope.
Jane.
Seeing what we want to see.
Okay, perfect. So I figured we'd just go in order. Does that sound good? And so we'll just, I guess, watch and discuss afterwards. I watched through it and they send me a little email saying congratulations. Leslie, can you tell me, do we need to like do group certification at the state level showing, hey, our board has watched this, or is this just a if you want it kind of thing?
This is just a resource if you want to do it. There's no requirement at the state library level for like trustee boards or anything to do this training. This is just a resource.
Okay. Yeah, because they talked about if you watch it as a group, how you can get the group certified and pass it. So I didn't know if that was something I needed to worry about. I will keep track of who's watching anyway, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end you get like a certificate that, I mean, then you could say like, and I think they do have like a list of what boards and trustees have been like gone through this training, but it's by no means like required.
Gotcha. Okay. Any questions before we go? Let's do it then.
Okay. I don't have any sound.
Yeah, there's no sound.
Oh, okay.
No sound?
No sound.
Any advice, Jason?
I don't. I'm looking at it right now.
So Patrick, you're hearing the sound, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You have
Strange.
to share the sound. I think you have to tell your computer to share your sound too.
we do?
Well, this is kind of interesting. I always figured maybe I could play Pandora music or something while I'm waiting for my Zoom classes to start, but obviously not if I don't share my sound.
You
Oh.
can do it because my his teacher, he plays music all the time. So I'm
Mhm.
thinking there's a way to do it.
Hey, Patrick,
Yeah.
when you share your screen, like if you stop sharing your screen now and go to share it again, before you hit which screen, there should be a checkbox that says share sound.
Ha ha ha. There we are. Okay, we'll get it. I'll full length it, but tell me if this is working.
Of the American Library Association
Yep.
for Trustees.
Okay. Start that over. Take 2. Thank you, Jason.
Welcome to Short Takes for Trustees. I'm Beth Novolinsky, the Director of Marketing and Communications for United for Libraries. We are the division of the American Library Association for Trustees, Advocates, Friends, and Foundations. Today I'm here speaking with our Executive Director, Sally Gardner-Reed, about what it means to be a library trustee. So Sally, what does it mean to be a library trustee?
I think the simplest answer is in the name itself. It's to hold the public trust, to ensure that their investment in their library is employed to ensure that best practices are used to deliver services and programs that the community wants and needs to grow intellectually and to have a quality of life that enables them to be great citizens and full participants in their local government and to enjoy lifelong learning.
Is there a difference between governing boards and advisory boards?
There is a difference. It's a pretty big difference, actually. Governing boards have the full responsibility for all assets of the library. That's their fiduciary responsibility. It means that they hire, evaluate, and can fire the library director. The library director is a direct report to them. They are typically elected at large by the community, or else they're appointed by the governing body of their entity, whether it's county or city. And again, they do have the full responsibility for the library. Advisory boards are, as the name implies, there to just simply advise the library director. They're representatives of the community, and they sometimes help with the same types of jobs that the governing board does. They assist with policy setting. Sometimes they assist the city or county manager with the library director's evaluation, but they have no direct authority over the library director and no direct authority over the library itself.
And for the purposes of our discussion today, are we talking more about governing boards or advisory boards?
We'll be talking throughout the series really more about governing boards, but actually much of what we'll be discussing will be applicable to advisory boards as well.
Earlier you mentioned fiduciary responsibility. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes, most people think of fiduciary responsibility as simply financial responsibility, but it actually is much more than that. It is a responsibility to act in good faith always, to have no self-interest, to have no conflict of interest. That means no hiring of kin, no letting contracts out to your brother-in-law. It really is acting at that very high level of integrity in all actions.
And we're going to talk in another session about board ethics, which you were just referencing. Can you tell me a little bit about the pros and cons of having a fiduciary board?
I am a firm believer that it's always best to have a fiduciary board. They give a lot of protection to the library director because the library director is a direct report to that fiduciary board, and I believe that the fiduciary board is a lot more directly connected to the community. When there isn't a governing board, it is typically the case that the library director is a direct report to either the city manager or the mayor or the county administration. And that means that that library director is typically at will employee. And that means that if the the county or city administration finds some of the materials in the library objectionable and want them removed from the shelves, the director's in a pretty difficult spot to keep them there because he or she can literally be fired by not complying. Also, when the library director is a direct report to the city or county administration, they have to walk a pretty fine line in being direct advocates for the library's budget. So advisory boards do have less liability than governing boards, but the director has far less protection.
You mentioned less liability. What do you mean by that?
Well, when you are a fiduciary for a nonprofit, you have a certain level of risk because you are in charge of the assets of that nonprofit. Courts are generally very liberal in their take on nonprofit board members. So they understand that nonprofits are a corporation, and board members acting in good faith within a nonprofit are generally protected by the courts. Not always, but generally. You don't often hear of library board members being sued, for example. But there is a level of risk. So one of the things that library boards can do is indemnify themselves, and that means that they write into their bylaws that the library will cover board members and their expenses if they're sued, regardless of how frivolous, by the library's budget. So that helps protect individual board members to a degree. But most attorneys will advise board members of nonprofits to be sure that they have directors and officers insurance. And this insurance covers the board in total, as well as individuals, for all legal fees and all court costs if they are sued, with the exception of being sued for discrimination cases in which individuals on a board are found guilty. So it's a really good insurance to have.
So there really is a lot of responsibility in being a trustee.
There really is, but there's also a lot of gratification.
Can you describe effective board-director relationships for us?
Yes, I think simply put, it's when trustees govern and directors manage. But that sometimes is easier said than done. It's not always a clear line when governing lets off and management begins. So I think one of the ways to sort of test it is that boards should be looking outward. They should be looking at community. They should be setting policies for delivering services to that community, promoting the library to the community, advocating for library services to the community. The director should be seen, I think, as the chief executive officer, the CEO. He or she should be the one responsible for the staff, for developing services and programs to meet the needs of the community, for managing the budget on a regular basis, overseeing that financial piece, doing all the operations that a normal CEO would do to move the library forward and to make sure that the library is meeting the needs of the community. So I think it's a good relationship is one where there's a high level of trust, where trustees, as I say, govern, where librarians manage, and there's not micromanagement on the part of the board, but on the other hand, the director keeps them well informed and respects their input and respects them as well.
Can you give us a concrete example of this?
Yes, I think the development of a collection and policy is a really good area to look at. So, for example, the Library Board of Trustees will adopt a collection development policy. They will look at a draft that perhaps the director brings to them. They will ensure that it meets the needs of their community, that it works for their library. They'll modify any draft that comes to them and finally adopt it. And when they do, they stand behind that policy and hand it off to the director. And that policy provides a framework for collection development by the staff. So the trustees don't decide which books to purchase and what materials should go into the collection. That's for the staff decide. But as I say, the board needs to stand behind it because it is their policy. So when materials are challenged, and that does happen from time to time, people have differing views on what's objectionable, the board needs to be prepared to stand behind their own policy. Now, most collection development policies will come with a reconsideration form for those who find materials objectionable. They can fill out the form. That usually goes to a collection development committee for their feedback, and then it goes to the director for his or her comment. And then if that doesn't satisfy the person who is challenging, it can go to the board. If that material was selected well within the framework of the policy, again, I have to say that it is the board's policy, and it's really their job to stand behind their own policy.
That sounds like a very important and often difficult role for library trustees. And we'll be talking about policy development in another session. Thank you, Sally. This has been a really good discussion about what it means to be a library trustee. And I can see from our discussion here that when there's a great library, there's a great board and director relationship, providing a good foundation for success. And I'd like our listeners to know that we've developed a list of additional resources which your director will provide to you. We invite you to review that list and discuss any questions that you have with your library director. Thank you.
So I do have those resources. I'll email them out once this meeting's over. It's just a 6-page little write-up that kind of talks about what she talked about, and then a brief, like 1-page director's role overview, board role overview. And then it talks about friends and foundations as well on that same little handout, who does what kind of a thing. But that was the first kind of interview or overview. Any questions?
Just to summarize, it certainly seems like we're an advisory board and your direct supervisor is city manager Pessemer. And of course, I think part of what this is then is the value that we as a board can bring to you in your negotiations with City Hall in terms of pushing for budget adjustments or whatever the direction of programming is. Because I gather you can't do anything really dramatically different without getting sign off. You want our blessing on it, but you would still need sign off from the city manager, correct?
Yes, and you are a governing board. So you're not, you've been.
Oh, we are a governing board.
And according to Oregon state statute, yeah, the city's library board is a governing board. So it's just one of those, luckily we have a nice relationship between the board and the city. It's always fun to have no bosses and 12 bosses at the same time, right? So I do report directly to Tom, the city manager there. I also report to you all once a month, but no one's here, and so I'm the boss. But yeah, I love it. It's good. Okay, so I will, once this meeting's done, I'll just email that as a PDF out to everyone, and then you can look over that at your, I guess, convenience, because you have nothing else going on this week. So let's look at board stuff. I'm coming back for you.
Sorry, I had to take that phone call. They also like to call me because COVID, none of the doctors come to the room sometimes.
Oh.
So if it's something they just need to tell me. Ah.
That's the one. Sorry for looking at all my tabs. This is the one you want.
Woo! Okay, so now that we watched that, we're moving on to the library manager report. So take it away, Patrick.
Okay, so the biggest thing is the COVID pause, right? With the governor's orders and the city's direction to follow that, we have started staggering shifts to have even fewer people in the building at a time. Even so, myself and Beth Ann and a couple of our part-time people are even taking advantage of working from home. Sometimes I'm here usually 1 day a week during this time. Today is that day for me, so hence why the background hasn't changed at all from last month to now. But the good news is that none of our outward facing services have changed. If I hadn't have mentioned it, no one would know that we were working from home, because we're still filming, we're still uploading, we're still editing all our programs. We still have people here for curbside. Our curbside hours did not have to diminish at all. They're still running the same exact. The programs are still recording and going out as scheduled. Yeah, the big thing is that we're working, and sometimes it's here, but everyone is getting what they need from the library. We do obviously I don't think it's a surprise, but this Thursday we have canceled our curbside hours from 3 to 6. It's a holiday, so we're not going to be here for that. We are going to be this Wednesday starting virtual reference hours, so we're actually adding services during this time. Beth Ann is going to head that up. She has got a static Zoom link so that we can send out physical handout marketing materials where the link people can just type in as well as click on it. And she is going to be providing reader's advisory or homework help or whatever it is that people need. I'll be excited to see how that goes. This is something that she came up with and is running with it. She's very excited, and so am I.
So
budget.
Patrick, does that run kind of like the historical New York City library hotline where people could call in from all over the country and talk to a reference librarian and
Yeah,
get
so
advised on?
it's just reference service, but it's done over Zoom.
Okay.
So that's actually a really, really good comparison. So that's what that is. Budget wise, we are on track for everything still. We will see a giant bump in our expenditures for materials because we had the large, I mentioned it last month, but our large ebook purchase has come through. And then we spent about $2,000 on physical materials as well. That it's the time of year where we pre-order all our stuff. It's the time of year when all the new releases are coming out. And so the way that the company that we work with to purchase books works, they don't send out an invoice until the materials actually ship and are here. And so now that they're all showing up, that's why we're getting the big invoices now. So it was something budgeted for. That's why in months past we had like 25% of the year gone and 10% of the money, because now we're catching up to where that's supposed to be. As far as our weeding project, just an update on that. We have now shipped 71 total boxes to Better World Books full of items. I am done with the nonfiction section, including these right here behind us are the large prints, or not, excuse me, the oversized items there. So including oversized, not including our Spanish collection nonfiction. So we've got still to go through all of our fiction, Spanish fiction and nonfiction, the teens and the children's section for just the things that haven't checked out in the last 3 years. Again, everything that has never checked out, we've already completed that library wide. It's just those other remaining things there. I believe I've lost track. I'd have to count real quick. I think we've sent about 12 boxes over to the Friends book sale, and then they have taken those new items and replaced items that have been there long enough, then haven't been bought, but then we've gone and passed along to Goodwill. So they're still being donated somewhere else, which is in line with our circulation, or excuse me, our collection development and weeding policies. So that is something that we have been doing for years and are now continuing to do. The director at Monmouth reached out to me and I to her. I guess we've been speaking about, we want to make sure that where the two communities are so tied together, we develop a joint reopening plan together, so that, for example, if we're not doing computer usage, but they've opened up to that, neither one of us are getting the, well, Monmouth is doing this, why aren't you? Or Independence is doing this, why aren't you? And so she and I are going to take, we'll get together after the holiday week. This is just bad for her and myself as well, but we are going to get together and kind of draft a phased reopening plan that we can jointly present to people who have asked for it, so that we can say, okay, this is step 2, step 3 to where we can finally open. She is of the same mind, which again makes me happy that our city is, that you all have told me you are, and that I personally feel of, we don't want to start something and then roll it back. We want to be able to reopen things. And so even if we have to take a step back, like during these last 2 weeks where we've had to go to another pause or soft close, our services have not been diminished at all. And that's something that she's on board with as well. So that is really, really good to see. And with that, and speaking of Monmouth, there is a grant opportunity that I am looking at to partner up with her to do. It may be our grant and she's a partner. I don't think they're letting us jointly apply. But what I would like to do, again, where the communities are so tied together, there's an opportunities for it's called a Libraries Transform Communities grant. It's a joint grant through the Association of Rural and Small Libraries, as well as the American Library Association. And what it is to tackle some change or something that's going on in the community. And what I would like to use that money for, it's about a $3,000 grant, if we do get it, is to start a 2 communities, 1 book group, where the entire community would read the same book, and then we would have a facilitated discussion, as well as I would love to reach out to the author of the book that we choose to see if they would come and do an author talk about that. So I will keep you up to date more on that. There's kind of 2 deadlines for that. The deadline to apply is December 2nd, but that is the first round of deadline. And if you don't get the application submitted by then, there's a second go around where more libraries will be accepted. So I'd rather have a good application with partnership and stuff done up with Monmouth and other partners than rush it to have it in by next Wednesday. So that's kind of where we're going. The book and the topic that I have in mind for this first one is the book Evicted, which talks about homelessness and the homelessness crisis, focused in Chicago, but then also nationwide. It was a Pulitzer Prize winning novel, and it was written in 2016. I can't remember what year he won the award, but that is the book that I would like to start with. And then even if we don't get the grant, I think that this program is something that we could use to facilitate discussion, not only among people who are where we're locked down and not talking to people as much, but also to help the communities continue to grow stronger together. So that is kind of where we've been, what's going on now, and where we're going to be going soon.
And so, Patrick, especially with this, 2-week pause and everything else, I can't recall if the Independence Library had ever opened up to book donations again.
We have, yeah. So they're still going through the same quarantine process. People have either been giving them to us, well, they've been successfully giving them to us in the book drop, or when they come and do curbside, there's been boxes that we'll take in and then they go through our quarantine process. They've been unsuccessfully left on our doorstep in the rain overnight, so we have to not take them. But
Okay.
To get them to us so that we can take them out of the rain is usually the best.
I'm thinking for selfish reasons because I recently moved and we need to thin out our libraries because we've just got boxes of books and nowhere to put them. So, but eventually.
Hey, Patrick? Can I
Yes,
bring up
Nancy.
Friends of the Library? I don't know where on the agenda a little announcement would be, but since our last meeting, we, two things, we received a $2,000 donation.
Oh, yeah.
Mrs. Isaacson for our library to buy children's supplies and stuff. And just coincidentally, at the very same time, Leanne requested $1,500 to purchase DVDs for during the Black Friday sales. That's what she and Jana used to do that every year, you know, really good at it. A DVD and ebook, $1,000 worth of ebook downloadable. So I just want to let you know that it was approved, of course, by the Friends of the Library, and so that those new things should be coming soon when the Black Friday is over. Do you have
Awesome.
any comment, Marilyn? Marilyn, are you there?
She's here, but she doesn't have a microphone, is my
Oh,
understanding.
okay. I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to make that announcement to the board that we're doing as best as we can without being able to do fundraisers.
And we appreciate it. I will, one note, I mentioned that we're done with the nonfiction. That is just without touching the Oregon or the aviation collections. I know that was brought up. Those parts are still there and as they were. So
good. Because you know we get those special requests when we get this.
Yeah. So is there anything else during this time? Okay.
that's all I had for my update.
Okay, great. And Nancy, did you have anything else you wanted to add about the Friends
No,
before we move on?
That's it. I just realized that we hadn't.
Yeah.
We got this big donation and all that stuff after the last board meeting, so I thought it would be a kind of a
Great.
fun announcement.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So that's about it. Yeah.
Now we'll move on to unfinished business, which is, I believe, Patrick's going to give us a update about the hotspot lending policies.
Yes.
Where that
So
is?
when I submitted this agenda, we had talked about, we members of CCRLS's directors group had set up, I've joined the, what was the right word, not panel, committee to come up with the lending rules and procedures, and they postponed the meeting until tomorrow. So we will have more for you next month, but really we're going to just come through and piggyback off of Mount Angel, who currently has a policy in place because they already have hotspots, as well as the community college's device lending rules, their laptops and tablets and things like that, and just kind of work these into there. I believe I told you last month that we were going to start with 10 devices coming to us, and they would roam around the consortia based on need, but only if we don't need those 10 would they go to someone else. And if we ended up needing more, then they would come from a library who doesn't need them there. So yeah, we're looking at, I anticipate it being one per household, an adult to check out with a longer time circulation, no holds available, but that is all up for grabs. I can see the benefit of both being able to put it on hold and not. I don't know where we stand on them showing up in the catalog if you were to search for hotspot, if that goes there, or if it would only be available if you called into the library and said, hey, we need one of those new fancy things. So that's the update. Is I'll have more tomorrow and you'll hear about it at the next meeting.
Great. Does anyone have any more questions about the hotspots? Okay, if not, we'll move on to new business. Anybody have new business? Patrick?
It's Thanksgiving and we're taking it one day at a time.
So do you have a
Okay,
Thanksgiving
great.
collections section?
We have holiday DVDs and we have, yeah, but nothing specific things. Well, I take that back. We have children's holiday books too that are broken up by Thanksgiving as well. So I don't know that we have a chicken soup for the Thanksgiving Soul collection.
Okay, so I think if that is all, that it is 4:37 and we can adjourn.
Move to adjourn or just adjourn?
Yes, I said, can I get
A move to adjourn?
yes, please. Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Yes, to get a movement to adjourn.
I'll second.
Someone?
Thank you.
Um, Thank you. I guess that's that.
Oh, you want to see my meeting?